I'm about to drive 100 laps around some of the hardest tracks on the F125 game with no assists. As someone who has never turned off the racing line, this is going to be a massive challenge. And I'm sure if you've played F125 without any assists for the first time, you'll understand how hard this will be. We will be doing 25 laps on 4 different circuits, starting with the Texas GP, then to Imola, Suzuka, and ending it off at the hardest track on the F1 calendar. Starting my first lap here. I have not played Texas in a while and it goes about as well as you'd expect. I improved by 17 seconds on lap 2 to bring me into the top 67,000 in the leaderboard. Finishing lap 3 with a 10-second gain and we get up into the 60,000s. This was my best run in turn 1 so far. Lap 4, I completely missed the apex and spin out on the exit, but I still gained at least 5 tenths, but I unfortunately invalidate. Coming up to the end of the lap, we are 1.9 seconds up, but go too wide on the exit and invalidate for the next lap. But we finish 1.5 tenths faster and get into the 57,000s. We don't improve at all until the end of lap 13, where we actually get our first valid lap, bringing us into the top 52,000 in the world. Starting lap 15 now, 10 laps off until we go on to the next track. Very brave into turn 1, we don't lock up much, and that is one of our cleanest runs, at least so far, exiting with 8.5 seconds. Going through the S's with almost a 9-second gap to our delta. Purple sector 1, going through the chicane. Turns 8 and 9 really were a struggle for me, but we managed to keep it on the track through this lap. Fast forward into the end of the lap. We get a massive run through turn 19. And then once again through turn 20 to finish 9.8 seconds faster than our previous lap with a 1:36.6 to bump us up massively into the top 27,000 in the world. Unfortunately, I do not improve from there, and that was in the end my best lap. But I'll still show you this final lap. We're on to lap 25 now. And that right there just shows everything I need to say about this turn. I absolutely hate this track. Moving swiftly on to Imola for the next 25 laps. Invalidated before I even started the lap, which just shows how terrible I am at this game. Seem to be fighting the car through every corner, but at least I've not spun out or gone off track in a way that would have invalidated if I wasn't already invalidated. But the ending we weren't wanting was going through turn 9, massive spin out onto the gravel. After 2 spins, I'm only 1 second down on the default ghost, with our first lap coming in at a 1:39.7. I'm usually not this bad at the F1 game, it's just I've been playing NASCAR a lot recently, as I've made 2 videos on it, and I don't think I've played F1 for about a month, and it shows. While going through the same chicane as last time, we spin out again, and after recovering and turning back around, we still couldn't just get back on the track after spinning out a second time. But even after that, we still made an improvement on our first lap with a 1:36.8. Lap 4 we spun out again, but we still made some time improvement, which is all that matters. On the end of lap 7 we make a 7-second gap increase on our previous lap, bringing us a whole 10,000 places up higher in the leaderboard. But from there we don't make an improvement for a long time, and it took us until the end of lap 16 to even make a valid lap. Coming into Acqua Minerale, down on the delta but with a purple sector 1, with an amazing run through that corner and a great exit we gain almost 4.5 seconds. We managed to keep that time through turns 14 and 15, which is a very difficult part of this track. Coming across the line for our second clean lap with a 1:17.7, 5 seconds faster than our previous lap, to get us into the top 23,000 on the leaderboard. We had a great lap going on lap 24, almost 2/10 up going into turns 14 and 15, but we spin out and lose all that time, ruining our lap. Starting our 50th and last lap on Imola, let's see if we can make an improvement. Very ballsy through turn 1, and I gain almost a 1/10 of an improvement on my best lap. Great entry into the Villeneuve chicane, but then I just lose all the time I gained on the exit. We managed to recover some time, going 2.5 into Acqua Minerale, and leaving with a 3.5 gap. But all good things must come to an end. Going through turns 14-15, we lose all that time once again. And I end up overshooting my brake marker and going way too wide into the final corner, invalidating my lap. We end up finishing our 50th and final lap on Imola, not in the way I would have wanted, but moving on, starting off our next 25 laps at Suzuka. Fuck! Heading into turn 1, which is a very interesting corner, where we actually do quite well to keep it on the track, but we also get a good run out into the snake corners. So far we set a good lap, but going up the Dunlop curve we go way too wide onto the gravel and almost save the spin, which I think is a very good improvement for me. We braked perfectly going into turn 16 to finish our lap and set a good run into lap 2. Finishing our first lap with a 1:47, but don't worry, the times go much higher from this. Heading over the Dunlop curve and into Degna, we gain a lot of time, because on lap 2, would you believe it, we spun out again. Having a 9-second gap going into the hairpin, but we lock up and head straight into the gravel, managing to keep it just about still and not spinning out. Still with a 4-second gap and not invalidated, so I take this as a win. Heading into the spoon curve, we brake just perfectly but almost invalidate going out the exit, but we have a decent exit onto the backstretch. Purple sectors 1 and 2 with a almost 3.7 gap going into 130R. Getting a good exit on the last curve to finish our first valid lap in only 3 laps, which is a personal record for me so far. Finishing with a 1:37.3 and just breaking out of the 70,000s in the leaderboard. Coming up to the end of lap 6, it wasn't a fast lap, but it was a clean lap, and that is what we needed to set a bencher. Finishing the lap almost 7.5 seconds faster than my previous, because I hadn't spun out once during this lap. With a 32.3 and bringing us into the 40,000s. Starting lap 9, we're down on the delta going through the first turn. With one of our best runs through the banked curve and a great exit up to Dunlop, we have a 4.5 tenth gain on our delta. We improve even further coming up to the hairpin with a 7/10 gain on our delta. We continue to improve all the way up until the final curve, where we lock up and, trying to not invalidate our next lap, we just mess up everything, keeping it on track and losing half a second. Still finishing the lap with an improvement on our best, with a 1:31.8. Our next improvement comes on the end of lap 12, where we're already 3 tenths up coming into 1:30R. All we need is a perfect run through the last curve to get a good time, and we do just that with a 9/10 gap, breaking into the 130s with a 1:30.9, being placed 27,000th on the leaderboard, which is a 10,000 place increase from our best lap, just from nearly a second increase. So there is definitely a lot of time out there that we can gain. We don't see an improvement on our previous lap for another 4 laps, starting lap 16. Managing to be 2 tenths off my delta after sector 1. Five and a half after sector 2. Rounding the final corner with a perfect lap, gaining 7 tenths with a 1:30.2, breaking us into the top 20,000 in the leaderboard. And that was our best lap, coming into lap 25, where we did set a decent lap, just not good enough. Even though we didn't improve, being only a 10th off our fastest lap shows that I am improving a lot and the consistency is there. Finishing our 75th lap and our last lap at Suzuka, we thought we did amazing, so I figured we may as well jump to the hardest track on the calendar. Starting off our first lap in Monaco. And it goes about as well as you'd expect. With hardly any brake markers going into Saint Devon, it is a track that I do play often, but I use a racing line, and this is so different. I just turn in way too early, go over the curb and immediately invalidate my lap. With a decent run through the casino section, I do brush a couple walls, but we make it through unharmed. We almost pulled a Roscoe at Mirabeau, and now we're heading to the hairpin. Heading out of the tunnel into the Nouvelle Chicane, we just brake way too late and completely give up on the corner entirely. To back was a corner I struggled a lot in these 25 laps, hitting the inside wall and on a few other occasions going way too fast into it and hitting the other wall. Heading into the chicane, which I've had so many issues with just in general, completely jumping over the curbs and not even attempting the corner. Coming across the line to set a very illegal but still very slow 1:16.7. Great run through Sandavon with no miracles, and we get out clean, heading up towards the casino section. Heading through Massenet, which was just another corner I could not figure out. I didn't know if fourth was correct, third, I didn't know where to brake. It was awful, but we managed to get through, and this was probably one of our best attempts at this corner, which just says a lot about how this video is going. We were 2 seconds up heading into the hairpin, but we couldn't keep that speed exiting it, and we had a little moment going through Mirabeau. We had a great exit on Portier, hitting the wall but not invalidating, with a good run down into the tunnel. Going into the Nouvelle chicane, we just managed to brake early enough that we didn't go off the track, and we were probably a millimetre off invalidating. But into Tabac we had a great corner, and we did not touch any walls, which was amazing. We managed to take the chicane perfectly, and we didn't run off the track. Heading into the Rascasse with a bit of a lock up, but we still managed to keep it going. Finishing the lap with our first clean benchmarker on lap 6 with a 1:15.7, bringing us to the top 44,000 in the world. But this track was awful. It was one of them tracks where you just have to be so on edge through the whole track, and if you make one little mistake anywhere, your lap's ruined. You have to have a perfect lap every single time, so it took me from lap 6 to lap 24 to improve. This lap just shows how difficult it is. Because I didn't have too many moments, I was banging all the walls though.
I'm fast as fuck, boy!
And still managed to exit the lap with a 1 second gain, showing how much time is out there for me to improve upon. With a 1:14.5 and setting our lap into the top 35,000 in the world. Here we go into our final lap of this video, lap 100. This was probably the best lap I had done. The car actually felt to go in the places I was wanting it to, and I could feel the improvement from the very first lap I did on Texas. We had a bad entry in the Sandavon corner, but we managed to have a good run up the straight towards Massenet. Once again, going through that corner felt like I was on rails. I just was not in control, and I was hoping and praying that my car would just stay in where I was wanting it to. Heading into Mirabeau was one of our cleanest runs, and we gained a lot of time. We managed to keep that gap up until Portier, where we hit the wall, and I think it did help us a bit, but we didn't invalidate it, so we'll take it. I'm drifting and sliding around every corner, trying to get the throttle down. With an amazing run through the Nouvelle chicane, this was looking to be one of the best laps I'd ever done. But heading into back, my rear tyre slightly grazed the wall and it invalidated me, which I cannot believe. But anyway, this lap had been too perfect to stop now. We chose to not believe in what the FIA says, because that was bullshit. We lost quite a lot of time through the chicane, but we were still 4/10 up going into La Rascasse. Heading through our last and final corner with a half a second gap on our personal best. Finishing these 100 laps with a 1:14.0. We finished our lap in the top 41% of all players. I can't believe I bottled my final lap, but thank you all so much for watching, and be sure to check out my other videos. I'm going to post an F1 race soon, without any assists, so hopefully this training was enough for me. I hope you've enjoyed the journey on these 100 laps and seen how well I've improved. But once again, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.